like you look like you're in the army, but I guess they're dealing with very dangerous people. So,
Yeah. Yeah, he's really just an amazing character, and he puts his life on the line every day to save endangered species and protect the most critical environmental resources. So it was an inspiring conversation, certainly.
did you read about him and all the things he has done and how he ended up in jail in Japan and the whole bit?
Yeah, yeah, I read all of it, and then I watched his TED Talk as well. Just mind-blowing, his story, and really inspiring. I like what he had to say, that you have to find a job that you're willing to die for. You have to find a cause in life that you're really willing to die for, and then throw yourself all into that work. So I mean, I'm lucky. I feel that I'm able to do work that I care about, and it's really at the core of our business. It's about creating a planet that our children and our children's children can live on, and so I'm very happy to do that kind of work. And I grew up like celebrating nature every day and going on camping trips and even scuba diving and seeing environments and ecology in such a rich way that definitely shaped my love of nature. And those same environments, even in the 28 years that I've been alive, are really different from when I was a child. And so it's saddening, but it's also empowering, and it creates a sense of urgency that we really need to do so many things and take action in order to just turn this around and save the planet. And that's what we're talking about here. So good transition to the interview.
That is true. That is so true. Yeah. Did you see also, before we start, but that there is someone who joined the Impossible Foods board that is a Costa Rican that used to be part of the United Nations Environment Agency or whatever, and now she's on the board. And I'm like, when I read about her, I'm like, oh my goodness, I could have asked her, for us. But anyways, so I think the Costa Rican side, there's a brand correlation to that country that I think is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, certainly a leader in protecting their natural spaces. So I would love to hear more about that when we
let's start with that. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to just give you a quick introduction. All right, here we go. Fantastic. So I have the privilege and pleasure of speaking right now with Margarita Herdocia. She is a remarkable businesswoman, human rights activist, entrepreneur, who has previously managed food franchise operations, real estate, and so much more. She worked as a philanthropist on women's empowerment, education, and immigration. Margarita focuses on building a company culture of respect, care for others, and happiness at PLNT Burger. She's also a co-founder, and I'm so proud to have you on to speak about women's empowerment, International Women's Day coming up, as well as saving the planet, such an important issue. Welcome, Margarita.
Thank you, Jonah. Thank you for having me in your interview.
Absolutely. So let's start with International Women's Day. It's coming up, and you are such a leader in this world. I want to just ask you, starting out, what do you feel are some of the biggest challenges facing women in today's workplaces?
I think women have always had the tougher side of all challenges that humanity faces, because whatever humanity is affected by, usually women bear a harder brunt of the problem, in particularly because where there's a woman, there's a family, that is being carried by her, protected by her, led by her. So I do think when you talk about women, you don't only talk about one person. You always talk about, a team of people that she protects. So women have been, since the beginning, protectors of a group. And usually it's a group of vulnerable people, whether it's minors or elders or a whole family or a whole village. The beauty nowadays in the modern world, in the developed world, is that women are continuing to do this kind of protection, but they're doing it in different fields, including the corporate field. So when we talk about women in business, and in women in business and the relationship to the environment, women are now by nature, they're natural, they have it in their DNA to be CEOs. I really believe women have in their DNA the capacity to be CEOs, precisely for the natural role that was given to women to protect, the family, not only to bear and protect the child inside the womb, but also to protect the whole village, to care for everybody else. And that makes it a unique opportunity that we have now for women to transition, not only from corporate leaders to environmental leaders, who see the extension of this protection that we do to the whole planet.
That's powerful. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that before, but that skill set, that maternal instinct really lends itself well to managing, caring for an organization, building a culture, and leading it to success. So I really appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that. Have you
You're
ever,
welcome.
Margarita, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, when people talk about the role in the last 50 years of women in the corporate world, a lot of times the road has been trying to fit into a man's world. And as a lot of those barriers have been broken down, and as more women have taken role in key positions, we have realized that the barriers that needed to be broken down were more the man style of leadership. Mm-hmm. So as we have more and more women succeeding in CEO roles and multinationals and huge companies being led by women, we realize that rather than trying to fit into a man's world, we need to have the world adopt more of the innate female aspects of leadership, including the care for the environment, which is a nurturing and protecting and a mothering natural role.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it has to do with the environmental crisis that we find ourselves in today, which in many ways is a result of this domineering and patriarchal and exploitive approach to environmental resources, to building industry without consideration for the surroundings. How do you see the women's movement and women leadership as related to environmental action and creating a more holistic approach to businesses that are also ecological?
Mm-hmm. I think the idea of taking the whole 360 environment of where a company operates has been already in the foreground of company leadership, but women have always had it as an innate and natural way of leading. When we think about for example, the business we are in Plant Burger, we're not only thinking of selling a great product, the most delicious burger in the planet, chef crafted, plant-based, but we're also thinking about the whole 360. Are we a company that is good to their employees? Are we a company that is good to the neighborhood that it works in? Are we a company that uses recyclable products? Are we a company that discards in a healthy way? So the idea of thinking holistically is the same way that women have by nature done that. And if we bring it down to the most simple and basic male-female, let's say, distinction, when you think about a mother, the mother is doing many things at the same time. Is by nature a multitasker. So moms can't afford to be single-focused. They are always being, they might have a primary focus of their attention and their time, but they always have their radar on. Their sensors are on, because you can't afford to be cooking the food and not, in the radar, where is the child? You can't afford not to be thinking about what's the house, what is my job doing, what is the husband doing. So we are by nature multitaskers. And that is the type of role that one needs to have, to never lose sight of anything we do, any product that we make, any service that we give, without keeping in the radar screen, what are we doing to the environment? How are we using the environment, to do our service and our product, but also how are we protecting it at the same time?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think environmentalism is, in a way, inherently a feminist idea because we all owe our existence to this planet. In a way, it's our, so if we think of planet Earth as our mother, then the desire to protect and respect and cherish planet Earth is really about understanding where we came from and respecting women and upholding that sacred environment that again gave us birth and as a human species enables us to live and thrive and be conscious on this planet. So it's really wonderful to hear you say that.
Yeah, mother nature, it has been always a female image. When we think about Mother Earth, we think about it as the womb that holds us, you know, the womb that protects us, the womb that gives us birth. And it doesn't mean that it's not male oriented too. I'm the mother of 3 children, 3 sons. And so there is no way that I would say I am more of a feminist as I would call myself a humanist. And I think the same way that we think of Mother Earth as a female persona, it's obviously meant to bear children of any type of orientation. And in that sense, it's also very motherly to be encompassing and tolerant and welcoming of anything that comes is by nature motherly. So, and I think when we talk about equality and fairness, that is also a mother attitude. You know, a mother doesn't say, okay, I take this child and I don't take this child and discard this one, love this one more. No, you know, we care for all of them. We love them all. And we try to enhance the abilities, innate abilities that every child brings with him and herself. So I think the same has to do with the way we treat the environment. We need to find different ways of caring and protecting it. And it's a role for everyone, not just for business leaders, but for every single person. Where I think we have it easier now, it's very interesting in the business world, is that the desire to save the planet is now demand driven. Before, it was very few isolated, enlightened leaders, let's say, who would think about how do I do well in this company and at the same time protect the environment. Nowadays, the young people and the millennials are desiring to have products and services who are coherent with their values. So nowadays, CEO leaders and corporate leaders have it easier because it's demand driven. Nowadays, a company that does not take into account the people it serves, the vendors, the customers, the environment, the employees, everybody, it's a company that is not going to go far.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, in terms of a business long-term success and profitability, if it's not founded in a regenerative approach to ecology, or if it's not built on an understanding of how environmental resources need to perpetuate themselves in order to sustain that business, then the business won't exist in the long term. It won't make more profits. So in a way, environmentalism needs to be a part of business. That's part of why this whole movement of conscious capitalism is really taking off, is because I think more and more business leaders are recognizing that if they don't weave into their business plan a way to be sustainable and increase their yields, agriculture is a great example, right? Like if we have a mining approach to growing our crops that depletes the yields year after year because we're putting in artificial fertilizers, or we're investing and we're extracting from that land rather than investing more fertility and building that plot, then that's not a sustainable business model. You're going to get to a point where your land is dead and you're experiencing, a decrease in your yields and ultimately in profits. So it's exciting to see that finally even large corporations are recognizing there's a need to have a sustainability plan, not only for your business, but for the environment, because those two are inextricably woven together.
Yeah, and also, there is a desire to lead a life that is coherent. It used to be that we led compartmentalized lives. People had their lives at home, their lives at work, their lives in the church, their lives in, when they are out with their friends. And a part of the corporate culture that we have and that I've tried to instill in all of my companies, the be and make happy, it's called. Yeah. Sometimes people ask me, what's your life mission? And I said, it's exactly the same as the one that I try to have in the company. And the be and make happy comes from being coherent to true to oneself. And it used to be that we had to put on roles. We had to put on a business suit, to come into the corporate world and act the part. Whereas, at home we were someone else, and in the gym we were someone else, and in our church we were another. And women were in the past forced to have these different types of roles. In the be and make happy corporate culture, we are invited to be true to ourselves. And when we lead different people, whether it's 20 people or 1,000 people, as leaders, we have to find the treasure in every single person and make sure that person, that team member, fits into a role that is coherent with the self, that fits with the personality. And using the analogy that we talked about in the past, is the same as what a mom would try to do. If a mom has a child, a shy child, and then an extroverted child, the mom can try to help them, to pivot in the different roles, but the mom will try to promote that this child fits into that personality and is happy and coherent with the personality. The same in our companies. So we need to make sure that every single person that works with us leads a coherent life. And the same way with womanhood, we need to be full women, if at ease and comfortable, whether we are at home or in the church or in the workspace. And the workspace, it's a place that is, to me, very close to my heart, because when you think about it, we spend of the 24 hours of a day we spend, hopefully 8 sleeping, and maybe 2 going back and forth from the workplace. But most of our awakened life happens in the workplace. So if we are not women true to ourselves in the workplace, feeling at ease, feeling safe, and feeling invited to express all of our assets and our potential there, then where? Life doesn't happen in the few moments where you are back home making the dinner, or in the weekend where you take care of your family. It happens there too. But most of the number of awakened hours happen in the workplace. And so if we don't create a safe space and a place where women can blossom and create their influence on the world and on Mother Earth through the workplace, then where? So and I think we are facing very interesting times, very positive times, in my opinion. I think the pandemic has been a time that we have highlighted the difficulties that women have, because women, I think, have had a brunt of and a heavier load in the pandemic, having to multitask and carry not only their young and their workplace and their elders who have gotten sick, but also we have now an opportunity to see a way that we can, have a balanced life. So I'm very happy, and I think positive of what's coming, because I think when we highlight issues, then we have an ability to fix them.
Absolutely. You actually covered all of the questions that I was going to ask on women's empowerment, with the exception of one more. I would love if you could give some of your thoughts. What advice would you give to young women who are interested in entrepreneurship or pursuing a career in business?
Mm-hmm. I will give them several advice, and there's a lot of advice out there, that can actually fit men and women very well. And so I'm not going to go into those, but I'd be happy to talk to, women in general. But there are 2 areas that I find where women are shortchanging themselves. And one of them is in terms of women need to make peace with power. Women need to have a positive relationship with power. And what kind of power? all kinds of power. People think in general power, usually what comes to mind is political power or economic power. And women are shy about accumulating power because they see it as something that is not feminine to do. And power is not intrinsically bad. On the contrary, power, like a lot of assets that one can accumulate, are not good or bad. They're neutral. They are good or bad in the way we deploy them. And specifically, I'm talking about power in the workplace and climbing in the corporate ladder, and also economic power. When men negotiate and are great negotiators, and they ask for more salary or more or higher position, they are seen as proactive, and they're people congratulate them and tell them, great, you're a proactive man, you're an aggressive man. If women do it, sometimes society can say, oh, that, and they may even use an epithet that is not good. Oh, that's an aggressive X and X, whatever epithet and adjective you want to call it. But so specifically when I am interviewing women, or when I am doing a work review to women, their response, and you give them a promotion or an increase in salary, women usually, not always, and there are exceptions, will say, thank you for the promotion, thank you for the raise, the pay raise you gave me. And men almost inevitably will say, that's too little, I expected more. And so my invitation and my advice to young women, when it comes to money, don't be shy about requesting it for yourself, because your job deserves it. You deserve to have equal pay, but also ask for more, negotiate for more. What you do later with that, that has to be according to your values. But there is nothing wrong at all with negotiating for, requesting for power and more money. Do it. Don't be shy. And then use it according to your own values. Use it for good. Use it to help others. Use it for the environment, but don't be shy. So one of my advices is for women is negotiate. And the other one is accumulate social capital. People think of capital as economic capital. Normally, that's what people think, or people think capital is a piece of real estate, you have your home. No, social capital is all of those relationships and networks we have. Women are by nature amazing relationship experts. So capitalize on your relationships. Keep your network of friends. Keep up with your friends. Think of everywhere you are, leave a positive mark, be a bridge to people, connect people, and keep that capital, grow it as you go up in age, grow your social capital, because those connections, you can tap into them later, and you can tap into them for yourself, or you can tap into them to connect others. So don't lose track of your friends. And by friends, I don't mean have 1,000 friends on Facebook. That's not a friend. I mean real friends, real connections that can be your web of social capital that you can use for yourself and others. So those would be my two advices. Make peace with power, and then learn to negotiate and accumulate it and use it for good. And then accumulate social capital, grow your social capital, and also use it to deploy it for yourself, for your family, for your neighborhood, for the environment.
Wow. Phenomenal advice. Thank you, Margarita. That's really wonderful. I don't know if you, and don't feel pressured at all, but if you have any experiences from your career or from any time in your life where you experienced discrimination and how you reacted to it, how you overcame it, that would be wonderful as well. And if you don't want to, that's also fine.
No, I will be happy to share, and I definitely have felt it. There's a lot of times that I have had to navigate in a man's world, and being woman and being Latin American and being Catholic creates a huge burden of expectations as to what my role should be and how I should behave. And one clear example is an advice that I got from my mom. Don't go network at a bar after the conference. That would not be good. that wouldn't look good. And from that kind of behavior, although I would say my mom was a great role model for me, and because she's a businesswoman herself, and a lot of the skills I have, I learned from her. But there's a lot of expectations that women need to be, not only be, but project being pure and wholesome and not aggressive, just what I talked about before, about the power. So I do have felt that pressure to conform into those roles.
Yeah. And how did you react to that? How did you overcome that?
I think with hurt at the beginning, there's no real lesson and growing, I think, that doesn't come wrapped in some pain. A lot of the difficult moments we have in life are gifts wrapped in pain. Mm-hmm. And but we need to find, somewhere the strength to unwrap the gift and take away the pain and the hurt, and find the treasure and the lesson inside of that gift. Friends help a lot, and mentors help a lot. And I think that's another thing that we need to do. Part of the social capital is developing women's network of mentors. And the mentors can be women and men, but we do need to have a network of mentors where we can go to. And then that could be our family also. But it should also be other people, where when we have a moment of pain or a moment of discrimination, that we can go to and say, this happened to me, it just help me share the pain, or help me by giving me advice.
Fantastic. So I love that. I think that concept of often what seems like a curse or a big setback or a tragedy is really a blessing wrapped in disguise. And though it may be really difficult to understand and embrace that in the moment, it's critical that we do for our personal development. And it has a lot of truth in the environmental movement. And in a way, I like to think of the climate crisis, global warming, or whatever you want to call it, as a blessing in disguise, because it's forcing us as people, as business leaders, part of political systems, part of economic systems, to reconsider fundamentally how we've operated. And now that we understand the implications of what we had done and the impact it had on the environment, pivot and change and ultimately improve. So I'm hopeful that the conversations that we're having around environmental change and environmental activism now will lead to a healthier and more productive, cleaner and better systems in the future. And I'd love to start this side of the conversation with you sharing your thoughts on the climate crisis and how you've seen the environmental movement transition and evolve over the past 30 years and as long as you can remember. Being that you're a Costa Rican, you're in a really unique place to comment on that. So I'd love to hear from you, Margarita.
Yeah. I was going to start by saying, so I live in Costa Rica, and it's a country that has been in the frontier of conservationism for a long, long time. I mean, Costa Rica has designated a lot of its land space to completely virgin preserves, national parks that are untouched. And we are really part of the lungs of America. We are in the middle of the continent, in the equator, and we are part of this forests that create not only a safe space for plants and animals, but we are clearly the lungs of America and part of the lungs of the world. And we need to have more and more lung space. If we see our planet, our Mother Earth, as a lung, the lungs that we breathe, I mean, do we really want to have dark spots and places where we don't breathe? Or do we really want to have, breathing spaces everywhere. Why can't we have parks and trees in all of our urban areas?
Yeah.
Why can't we have, electric cars that don't pollute, and more walking so we can be better for our, not only for our health, but also so we don't emit, carbon dioxide as we transport ourselves from one place to another. So coming from Costa Rica, it's part of the DNA. Costa Rica has two things that are part of its national psyche. And one is peace. We abolished the army a long time ago, over 60 years ago.
I love that.
With the idea that, that the money that is spent on armies and related industries can be used towards healthcare and education. And then the protection of the environment. The environment is humanity patrimony. We tend to think of countries as geographical independent entities, but the world is really one. The air we breathe is the same. So is our really forest and the protection of the environment and our waters and our oceans, is it the realm of countries and geographies, or is it really the realm of humankind? And I think the latter.
Yeah.
And even though we live still under national physical boundaries, I think the pandemic brought to us the clear awareness that we are one.
Yes.
We are one single country, one single earth, and we are totally connected, and so this is an opportunity. Hopefully after the pandemic, we do not see ourselves again as independent entities, but rather as one humankind that needs to protect this Mother Earth. In specifically, as we all like to say in Plant Burger, we vote one time every 4 years, every 5 in different countries, but we really vote, with our food choices 3 times a day or even more, because we do snack as well. And I think we really can vote more than 3-5 times a day if we count the kinds of snacks we do. And we usually look at what we eat in terms of health and convenience, but we don't necessarily look for the impact that what we consume has. Do we really look at the wrapper of what we're consuming? Do we look at where it came from? I am hoping that with the advent of blockchain, we can now track eventually not only where things come from. People are talking about uses of blockchain clearly in financial currency, in Bitcoin, but or related companies like that. But blockchain has the ability not only to track our suppliers, so we're going to be able to say, okay, where did this shirt that I bought come from? Where is the thread? What was the cotton farm? What was the truck that drove it? But I'm hoping we can add an ethical component to the tracking, where we can say, was this shirt, did it come from a farm that did fair trade to the employees who farmed the cotton? Were the workers in the trucking company or the shipping company that brought it, were they treated fairly? Were they paid well? Where was the farm an environmentally friendly farm? Was it one that didn't pollute the rivers? Yeah. So I am inviting any young people who is hearing this, that is associated from either blockchain technology or a similar technology, to try to add an ethical component to every tracking we do, so that we can then be more informed consumers. And we can say, this product that I'm buying, where did it come from? Is the Eat the Change mushroom, does it come from the farm that we know it comes from, this beautiful farm, a family farm? And was it well done? Yes, great, so I'm gonna consume this. Or did it come from a place that it didn't, that didn't protect the family members or the environment? So let's focus on that. We have been told that ethics have to stay away because that's the realm of the philosophy classes or the civic classes or the church. But no, we are living in a congruent, coherent world where everything we do has to be aligned, and including our consumer choices. So I do think we at Plant Burger, we try to create a company that is not only good for the planet, but it's also good for everybody around it, including the ones that work in it, all of us, so I think we need more coherence in our life.
Yeah, and it's connection, really. I mean, we just 100 years ago, humans were very closely connected to their food systems. They knew their farmers just the same way they knew their doctors, and they could trace from farm to plate. It was a matter of miles, right? And we live in this global economy today where it's so hard to understand where your food comes from, what are the ethical and social ramifications and environmental impact that it had. And so this is really exciting for me to hear that with this evolving technology, we'll be able to be much closer connected to the impact that our choices are having. And ultimately, it's about empowering consumers to make those informed choices. And I think that environmental action through voting with your dollars is the most powerful form of environmental and collective action. And again, what you said about the pandemic is so relevant to this, because we saw that just by adopting really simple things like social distancing, it may not seem like what I do matters, but if I were to stay at home and, if I go out, wear PPE and protect myself, and everyone else does the same thing, then we're able to achieve our goal as a collective society relatively easily. And it's about really a movement of people. If we agree on where we need to be, and we agree that we can adopt these simple actions to, act with intention for a healthier planet and for a more just food system, we can achieve that. It's supply and demand. So if the market demands that everything that people eat and purchase be ethically sourced and have a positive impact on the social structure, we can achieve these changes, and it can be monumental.
Yeah, and I think the difference between having like a negative type of leadership, or let's say discriminating leadership versus an inviting leadership, it's very different. So positive and negative. I think, are going to go further if we invite people to join a positive movement, a movement that is amazing, rather than shun people for wrong behavior. There is obviously a role, in negative feedback, but rather than penalizing companies for saying, oh, wrong, because you're doing this, let's invite them to develop products and services that serve our needs, that are good. I think the difference between this positive, inviting leadership and the one that discriminates and tries to create shun people and put them in a ghetto of the opinion, is it can go a lot further if we do positive leadership. And I think that's one of the things that we try to do in Plant Burgers. We try to invite with joy, and to the product that we're doing, to the service we're doing. This is a happy company. It's a company where we are proud to work in. We're proud to create the burgers that we do. We want to make sure you love it. And we don't want to guilt trip you into protect the environment, and if you don't consume this kind of product. No, it's the opposite. We want to give you a joyride in the process of eating and enjoying your meals.
Definitely. Yes, it's elevation, not deprivation. And acting in congruence with your values and beliefs should be better than the alternative. So I think we're experiencing finally a place or a moment in the innovation and food technology where we do have products that are even better, and are going to continue to get better, so that, again, making a choice that is the best for the environment and the best for people involved in the food system is also the same choice that's going to make you most satisfied and give you a delicious product at the end of the day. And I think you're totally right that we need to do this in a way that's uplifting as opposed to accusatory or attacking people for their choices. And that's really the winning formula, is let's celebrate just how delicious this is and how new this is, and how fun it can be to save the planet with a delicious burger. It's unheard of right? So finally it's here. And, that brings me to my next question for you, Margarita, which is, what environmental action has been most meaningful to you in your career? What are the things that you've done that you're most proud of with regard to environmental action?
I think going from a meat eater to becoming vegetarian has been, in the personal level, probably the most meaningful, because it has been a test to the decision. I don't find meat eating unpleasant at all. In fact, it could be delicious. But the decision to choose delicious plant-based food over delicious meat-based food is a choice that is not always easy, because one navigates in an environment where that's not the case, and it could even be derided. So I think on the personal level, that would be, I would say, the most meaningful decision, because it has gone beyond the decision to eat vegetarian or not. It has gone into the decision to go inside myself and analyze what else is there inside of me and my behavior that could be incoherent or incongruent with my feelings.
Right.
And that self-analysis is very humbling, because when I go in there, I find a lot of things I don't like. And I find a lot of dissonance between what I do and what I think I should do. And coming to grips with that dissonance inside, and being empathetic and kind and charitable with my own self has been a difficult road. I think, and speaking about women, we are very hard on ourselves. And we have these very strong and heavy saboteurs inside that tell us, you're doing wrong, you can't, you won't be able to. And also, you're bad because you did that. And so doing this trip inside has been a journey in self-awareness and in humility and in learning to be kind to myself, because I know that I am a work in progress, and there are a lot of times when I'm going to trip and I'm going to be incoherent with what I believe, but I have to learn to give the love to myself that I give to others. And a lot of times women, we are very good at giving love to others, but very poor at giving love to ourselves. And I think we need to learn to love that which was given to us by God first. We were not giving our children first. We were giving our bodies, ourselves, our souls first. And if we don't work and cherish and treat kindly that space and that life, then it's a lot harder to extend and extrapolate to others. So I would say that has been the most meaningful.
Thank you. Yeah, that's not, it's a powerful journey, and it's never, we're never perfect. We're imperfect creatures. We're always learning and growing and striving for, as you say, congruence between what we believe and what we do. And I definitely relate to that as someone who is constantly learning about the full scope of, I think, impact and imperfection that my own choices have. And because we live in modern civilization, we are faced with contradiction every day. And so it's really impossible to, if I say I want to make sure every action is good for the environment, it really becomes difficult and very, very complicated very quickly, because I'm speaking to you on a laptop that required rare earth metals, and I use a cell phone, and all of the packaging and the food that I eat, it's very, very deep and complicated. And, I like your perspective that we can't be too hard on ourselves, that we're always growing, and also to look at others who may not, who are also on their journey, as we can be together in trying to be our best selves and trying to create the best economic practices and the best systems to elevate and respect humanity and the planet as well.
Yeah, and that I love the fact that we at Plant Burger are trying to create a product that is for everybody. That is it's a product for all the burger lovers out there, regardless of what you eat in other moments. Because I really believe that we are going to entice you. We are going to make you fall in love with us and the movement by the time that you enjoy, the delicious taste and the happiness that you will find in our company, and then you're going to want to have more of it. And that's a way better invitation and more permanent invitation than if we try to guilt trip you into doing something, because hey, nobody is perfect, and we will never be perfect. And as we grow our company, we will also make mistakes, and then we will humbly admit them and pivot and grow from them. And we know we serve customers who are imperfect humans in the growth path to perfection. So come and taste us and enjoy our life path. It's that we're not running a company, we're inviting you into a life path.
Absolutely. And that transitions well to my final question, Margarita, which is, what do you think can happen on, this is a two-sided question, on an individual level and then on a systemic level to save the planet? What are some simple things that humans as individuals can do? And then what are the broader, more systemic changes that you think need to be brought about in order to save the planet?
I think on the individual level, the way we move ourselves and the way we transport ourselves has a big impact, and we can make choices of walking more rather than riding more. And I think technology is going to help us a lot, because technology has completely turned the corner already into developing ways to mobilize that have a very low or minimal impact in the environment. I think it's going to take a few years before we pivot. The beauty is that whereas before the incentive to use electric vehicles and things like that was more, oh, let's go save the environment. Nowadays it's cheaper, it's nicer. And that's the beauty when the technology and the humanity's skills are used to develop technologies that help the environment. And then we went from feeling guilty about hurting the planet to finding joy in riding in amazing vehicles that don't hurt the planet. And that's again the difference between negative and positive invitations. And as the world, in terms of the world, I think also the world has seen the beginning of a lot of technologies that can help use water in a safer way, waste less water, use less energy in all of the things that we consume. And as technologies become cheaper, they're also going to become easier. So I think we are facing a very positive outlook. And I'm hoping that the third world, which is going to be lagging behind in that effort, can leapfrog from the old, very bad for the environment uses of technology, electricity consumption, and leapfrog it to the new ones. So hopefully, they bypass all of the last 30-year type of consumptions and productions that we had to go through in the first world, because if we do that leapfrogging, it's going to be a lot better for Mother Earth.
Yeah.
And it's very efficient. For example, the cell phones that we're talking about. Before, we had to cable all of the towns. We had to, dig holes and do cables to bring electricity and connectivity to people and water to people. Nowadays, people are finding that you can totally leapfrog that. And rather than, give these roads to faraway towns, we can now do it in a more environmentally friendly way. And drones are certainly a lot more energy efficient than different modes of transportation to deliver things, especially if they're electric. So I think we're heading in a good place. hopefully we don't seek to go to Mars because we want to leave a destroyed Mother Earth, but rather because we want to go and do good things to Mars too. Otherwise, it would be a horrendous scenario to think that we are trying to go to other planets because we want to leave the destroyed planet.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's really amazing to think about the ability to leapfrog in terms of technological efficiency and resource efficiency, in particular, because that's at the core of our business model, and our value proposition is we can leapfrog this really inefficient model of producing delicious meat and protein. Let's go from this equation that is super resource intensive, very inefficient. You have to pump all of these calories, all of this water. You need all of this land to create a small amount of beef from plants. We can go directly to the end product of a delicious burger. And so it's a wonderful, prominent example, and obviously relevant to what we're up to at Plant Burger of let's just use technology to our advantage. We have all of these wonderful tools at our disposal that we can use to make it so much more efficiently. And then we also are able to cut out the negative downsides. So a lot of electricity, for example, when they established those initial electricity towers and lines, was lost in the process of transporting it. Now we have the connectivity, and we can communicate much more efficiently in terms of energy use. And the same is true, right, of plant-based meat. Is we're actually saving all of this energy by virtue of going directly from plants to meat. And I really appreciate your perspective here, Margarita. It's such a pleasure to speak to you always, but I just think what you have to say on issues of women's empowerment and environmental action could not be more on point. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jonah.
Fantastic. All righty, here we go. So